Good evening. Welcome to the May 5th public hearing on the school board's proposed 2021 budget. The meeting is now in session. This meeting is being held by electronic communications using Microsoft Teams due to the COVID-19 pandemic emergency. I ask that we all now stand for those of us who are here present as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance, and for those of you watching at home, please follow along. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. We want to thank you for turning in and for attending the public hearing tonight. I want to share that we are sorry that we are not able to have a virtual means to do the public hearing this evening, but in a recent update, it looks like we may have a process by the end of the month, and if not early June. So we are still working on providing a way to do public comment from the comfort of your home during our virtual meetings. But for this evening, I am here in the boardroom to provide the ability for our community to provide live public comment. As you may know, we adjusted our budget calendar this year due to the impact of the pandemic. We adopted our proposed 2021 budget on April 23rd, and we held a budget work session prior to this hearing to consider possible adjustments to that budget. We are holding this public hearing to receive input from the community as we prepare to adopt our final 2021 budget this Thursday, May 7th. We have also received written comments from the community throughout the budget process, and will consider all of the feedback we received as we finalize our budget. Before we hear from speakers tonight, I will be sharing a summary of the comments we have received in writing through emails and the online budget comment form, and in phone messages we have received. But before that, I would like to give my colleagues an opportunity to just provide any opening remarks they may like to share. Mr. Goldstein, I'll start with you.
Thank you. I just want to say, give a big thank you to my colleagues, to the staff, the superintendent, and the community for, all of their hard work and hanging with us in this very uncertain time, as we put together the budget, which of course is extremely important and very, very difficult because of the current COVID environment to do so. So it's been a long, bumpy road, or some would say it's been a short, bumpy road since we got the amount of revenue from the county that we now know that we're getting, and had to scramble to get a new budget in place. And that's taken a lot of time and a lot of sweat from the superintendent and staff, and I particularly want to thank them for that. But it's also affected community members and my colleagues. So again, my thanks for the hard work, and thanks for hanging in there. As a couple of my colleagues said, we're in a place nobody wants to be, yet we have to deal with it. So with that, again, my thanks for the hard work.
Thank you, Mr. Goldstein. Dr. Cannon?
Thank you, Ms. Talento. I'll just say, first of all, thank you to you for all your hard work and for, running an efficient budget work session just now. We just had the budget work session. We're doing our final budget on Thursday. I think I will have some remarks then about our budget. For now, I'm interested in hearing the public speakers. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Cannon. Ms. O'Grady?
Thank you very much, Chair Talento. I just want to thank also my colleagues and the community, and especially our staff and teachers. I think it's really very, very tough situation that we're going through currently. I know our teachers are working very hard to try to continue to engage our students. And it is with a heavy heart that we have to look at a budget that is really one that we didn't have any idea that we would be looking at. We were hoping to give our staff raises. That looks like that's not going to be possible in this environment. And I want to thank our teachers and staff for working above and beyond duty at this time, and to not be able to reward them with a raise this year is a very sad situation. We're also looking at cutting things that have been core to our community in the past, and we're looking at raising class sizes and many other changes that our community, unfortunately, will have to bear because of the unusual economic environment. And so with that, I'm sad that we are in this position. I want to thank the community for their understanding, and we have heard a lot of understanding as we look forward into what this budget environment may bring. What we heard in our last budget work session that just ended is that things could get worse before they get better. And so I would ask the community to continue to work with us as we try to look at our challenges in this situation because of the pandemic. So I want to thank again everyone who's worked very hard to pull together another budget just in the last week so that we are able to move forward and try to continue to serve our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Grady. Ms. Van Doren?
Thank you, Ms. Talento, and greetings to everybody tuning in to the hearing. Thank you for letting us provide opening remarks. I just add to the comments of my colleagues that I'm very grateful to all the work our staff is doing. They haven't skipped a beat. They've pulled together a budget, having to make sizable cuts, and none of us want to be doing that. I'm concerned that this may be the beginning and that we may be back at the table doing this. And I'm going to thank in advance our staff for staying with this budget in all these changing times. But I've been through, and most of my life, my work life was in corporations that were constantly making cuts and realignments. And it can be done if we focus and keep in mind what's important, the students and our staff, and keep our priorities straight, keep our eye on that strategic plan, and really push ourselves to think, is there a way we can do things more efficiently and effectively? And if the budget trimming comes, we go back at it with a clear purpose. So I hope that we start thinking about that now, given the report we just got from Ms. Peterson. We should be ready with that if it were to happen, and thrilled if it doesn't. I'm always game to rethink what we're doing with our staff compensation if somehow something happens that allows us to do that, but I don't see that happening and would prefer to have plans in place in case we have to do more in terms of tightening our budget. So thank you to staff, and let's just be ready and hold hands and get through this. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Van Doren.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
We absolutely must appreciate our teachers. It's Teacher Appreciation Week. Let's stop for a minute at some point and say thank you to them.
Sounds great. Thank you, Ms. Van Doren. Before I make my opening remarks, I did want to just acknowledge, for those of you who are just tuning in and did not watch our work session that we just finished, that the superintendent and her full ELT team is participating with us this evening. So thank you to them for being here for our public hearing. And I also want to reinforce that if you didn't have a chance to watch the budget work session, that you please do so. There's a lot of important information about the current state of our fiscal year 20 budget and what some of the unknowns and the unfortunate unknowns are for our fiscal year 21 budget. We also discussed about what the budget, how the budget will be in constant flux next year. I guess if that's a good way to summarize that, maybe it isn't. So please watch the budget work session to get a better understanding of what that means. And I just want to echo some of the comments that my colleagues shared about how difficult this budget year is for us, to thank our staff for, again, turning around what was an unexpected and unprecedented amount of information that was not favorable to us having the budget that we started off with. And so here we are making lots of cuts and ready to listen to our community and hear what they would like to advocate for as we consider these difficult decisions. I did want to acknowledge on behalf of the board a thank you to all of the teachers for all of their work today and every day during every school year, but especially especially right now during these very difficult times. We know how hard you are working right now to support our students. And we don't take for granted that you also now have your children at home and that you are trying to get your child, wherever they are in whatever school system they're in, through their online learning. Maybe you don't have children and you have someone you're caring for. Maybe you have a significant other that you need to find a way to work in the same home with. I just want you to know that the board constantly thinks about the challenges that our teachers and our staff, but our teachers are experiencing, working from home, trying to teach their students while they still have to manage their own families at home. It hasn't been easy for anyone, and we can't say thank you enough. APS is an extraordinary system. Considering what the nation is going through in the public education system, we have really done an extraordinary job in all levels of our operation, and our teachers are at the heart of bringing hope and life and education to our students right now during these difficult times. So thank you for that. Thank you for waking up every morning and touching our students to ensure that they remember that we care about them and it's time for them to get an education, even if it is online. We just want to say thank you to that. So with that, I will move to our public hearing. I'm going to start with the summary of the messages that we received since April 22nd. We received 11 messages in funding support for the exemplary project at Glebe. We received 8 messages in funding support for Communities for Schools. And these are people who want us to support funding for this. We also received 5 messages regarding the compensation. It includes feedback from one of our PTAs, the McKinley PTA. They would like us to support funding for compensation, to include a compensation study, a step, and a COLA increase. We received 2 requests for funding support for the planetarium projector. Montessori Public School of Arlington is asking for, there are some staffing pieces, I think. I'm not sure if that was a budget one, but I think they're working through that. We received 1 email from the Oak Ridge Elementary PTA regarding the HVAC based on their enrollment growth, as that was cut in the MCMM. We received 1 email for all exemplary projects to support funding that. We received 1 email from the FLES program. We received 1 email to support funding for information services conference travel, because that is being cut, and 1 email to support the funding for the TJ High School for Science and Technology tuition. And I just want to remind everyone, these are emails since April 22nd. We gave a summary of emails at last week's board meeting and a summary of emails at last week's work session as well. So this is just from that point forward. We also received emails that oppose cuts to the English Learner Special Position and Office of English Learner Staffing, and this includes a support for increasing testing coordinator. We received 23 emails for that specific piece. And we received 20 emails regarding the SMART notebook, and it includes staff feedback from our APS staff. We received 14 emails to oppose cuts to crew transportation, and a few of those were thank you notes in the support of the school board's proposed budget last week that restored the crew transportation cuts. We received 10 emails opposed to the band transportation cuts and 1 email opposed to the ITC. So that's what we received since April 22nd. And with that, I will now review our speaker guidelines before calling our speakers. The school board welcomes public comment from community members. For this public hearing, all comments should address the school board's proposed 2021 budget. Speakers are called in the order in which they sign up. However, if students have signed up to speak, we invite them to speak first. Each speaker may speak for up to 2 minutes, and there's a timer that will keep track of your time. The timer begins when the speaker starts speaking, and you should conclude your remarks when the buzzer sounds. And for those here this evening, I want to share that our deputy clerk of the school board is joining us electronically, and I just realized I didn't introduce her. It's usually you will see her at this far end of the dais, and her nameplate is there. But I realize now that she's virtual, you wouldn't know that. So our Deputy Clerk, Claudia Mercado, is joining us this evening, and she'll be keeping the time virtually. So we won't be using the speaker, but she will keep the time on her phone, and she will announce when your time is up if you don't hear the beep. And so the board does not respond to public hearing comments. If you have written comments, please leave them on the podium, and they will be distributed to the board. We ask the audience to refrain from applauding, as that takes time away from our speakers, and please be sure to state your name when you begin. So now, we are ready to hear our speakers, and I would like to ask Ms. Mercado, would you please call the speakers?
Yes, the first speaker is Ms. Cynthia Hilton. And I'll begin the timer now.
Okay, we're ready? Okay. Good evening. I'm representing the Aquatics Committee to urge your support for a budget amendment Mr. Goldstein will offer to rectify the decade-long issue of underfunding community use for APS-owned pools. Please know that Arlington swimmers are grateful APS has opened its pools to community use. For many, it is the only pool access they have. We know that to operate a pool, you need to have water, lifeguards, HVAC, showers, soap, toilet paper, changing rooms, custodial services, and the like. Pools cost money. Yet since taking over management of the pools, the county has never reimbursed APS for the full cost of hosting this valuable community program, either with tax revenue or user fees. In response, APS has collected fees from all community pool users that fully recover these costs, except from those who participate in the county's DPR swim classes and teams. Only this year, the county agreed to begin to collect these fees from DPR swimmers. However, it used a different fee scale that was significantly lower than APS's, recovering only 14% of attributed costs. In short, APS has been left to cover the community swim revenue gap with school-appropriated funds. The Goldstein Amendment would begin to rectify this situation by requiring that all community pool users pay their fair share of operation and maintenance costs based on the same fee scale. If you choose not to support this amendment, please tell us who should pay the community swim deficit. With present budget challenges, neither the county nor APS have surplus tax revenues, let alone additional revenues to drive down the cost of APS fees to match those of DPR. So if the current DPR fees remain unchanged, by default, the burden of the shortfall will shift to the non-DPR swimmer who's already paying their fair share. This is an injustice and should not be acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hilton. We appreciate your comments. Ms. Mercado?
The next speaker is Ms. Brooke Jones. And I'll start the clock now.
My name is Brooke Jones, and I've run the SMART Exemplary Project at Glebe for 8 years. SMART stands for Science, Math, and Art, and is a project-based learning program which uses contemporary art as a doorway through which students explore scientific and mathematical concepts. Every grade level at Glebe has its own unique SMART project, which students work on collaboratively throughout the year. I work directly with the grade level teachers to ensure that these projects reinforce their curriculum while giving students a chance to experience it from a different perspective. Students often create large-scale projects that become permanent or semi-permanent installations, or create a movement piece that is shared with the whole school. Every student in every grade at Glebe participates in the SMART program. Each project is personalized, not prepackaged. For example, our blacktop was a bleak space that kids admitted they did not enjoy. Last year, the 4th grade was asked to make this a more desirable space. They utilized math skills, measuring, scaling down, designing, and ultimately painting the basketball court. Now everyone wants to play there. It is colorful, beautiful, and most importantly, made by them, for them. This SMART project was inspired by Dan Peterson of Project Backboard, who transforms dilapidated basketball courts in low-income and underserved neighborhoods across the nation. His work is transformational, not just in the physical improvements it makes, but in the hope and joy it gives. Project-based learning like this grants students a sense of accomplishment and pride. These students go on to middle school and high school being leaders, having more confidence, and knowing how to work collaboratively. When the budget proposal came out, I was confused about what was being cut exactly and how that would affect the SMART program at Glebe. My principal, Jamie Borg, was under the impression that because we only have a .5 position, it would be cut entirely. I was informed yesterday that the SMART program funding is being cut in half. If the SMART program funding is cut in half, it will be impossible to maintain equity across grade levels. There is no way every class will be able to participate in the SMART project. Please consider allowing Glebe to maintain its current level of funding for the SMART program. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Thank you for being here this evening. Ms. Mercado, Ms. Gant, I see as the next speaker, but she's not here. So we will ask her to submit her comments to us in writing.
Okay, that would be the end of the list of speakers.
Okay, and we did not have any walk-in speakers. So I want to take a moment to thank all of our speakers and for being here and coming out during these difficult times in the emergency closure and the pandemic. I also want to thank all of the community members who have sent messages to the school board with your input on the budget. I also want to acknowledge, and I'm sure that I speak for my colleagues, that we've all received the personal emails that have come to our personal inboxes. The summary that I gave are emails that came in through public comment, voicemail, or through the school.board@apsva.us. They do not necessarily track the emails that we received individually. I know that I owe a few responses, but it's been a very busy week, but I have read all of the emails that I have received regarding the budget, and I want to thank everyone for taking the time to write to us, and I'm sure that we will all try to get back to you to the best of our ability, or forward them to our school board office to be logged and noted for our review of those emails, and your email will then be acknowledged. So we just want to thank you for all of that. We want to say thank you and really tell you how much we appreciate your thoughtful comments and your support for Arlington Public Schools. We know that these cuts aren't easy. We know that they are affecting instruction. Please know that we know that, and that we would give anything to not have a lot of these cuts. Our goal is to minimize impact on instruction. Minimize, I think, is a key word, to support our staff to the best of our ability with this budget, with these budget constraints. And we'll be deliberating over the next few days, and we just encourage you to watch our board meeting on Thursday, where we will vote on the final 2021 budget. And I do encourage you all to please watch the work session, at least the first hour and a half, where we talk a lot about the current state, what the future state might look like, and what our budget processes and amendments could be next year as we move forward. So that completes our public hearing for the meeting for this evening. I want to thank our interim superintendent and all of our ELT staff for joining us virtually. I also want to thank Ms. Mercado for being here with us this evening, and to my colleagues, we look forward to seeing you on Thursday, and I wish all of you a safe and good night. This meeting is adjourned.